Sir, I think we shall start. Be punctual. Participants will join. Shall we start, sir?
Yes, I'm actually ready to start.
Okay. So, good afternoon, participants. This is our second session of this 15 September, that is on Engineers Day. We have Dr. Avik Bhattacharya with us as a resource person, and our topic is electric transportation. And I request Professor Sagre ma'am to introduce me. Sagre ma'am, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Moving on to next session of day 2. Topic for the session is electric transportation system for the next generation. Dr. Avik Bhattacharya sir has received his MTech degree in machine drive and power electronics from IIT Kharagpur in the year 2005 and is been awarded as PhD in power quality from IIT Kharagpur in 2010. He was working as a senior design engineer at Solar Semiconductor, and he has also worked as a technical manager at HCL Technology and as a manager and head at Samtel Avionics. He is currently working as an assistant professor in the Department of Electrical Engineering at Indian Institute of Technology at Roorkee. His areas of interest are DC microgrid, source disturbance and DC microgrid, and stability, electric vehicle, power electronics, flexible AC transmission system, shunt active power filter, advanced electric drive, investigation on multi-level inverter and its control, renewable energy, application of SST in WECS, renewable energy, and solar inverter topology. He has published many research papers in international referred journals, which included IETE Journal of Research, Arabian Journal of Science and Engineering by Springer, IEEE Transactions on International Electronics, and many more. He has been honored by Dr. Fatima Rashid Best Paper Awards in ICAEE 2015 at Dhaka and also IEEE Tensum 2020 Best Paper Award recently in this year. Sir has been contributed to many sponsored research projects also. We are honored to have you, sir. Now I request sir to start with the session.
I think this is your topic, right? I was little bit confused. Your topic of today is the electric transport system of the next generation, for next generation, right?
Okay, yes.
Okay, anyway, topic can be anything, but philosophy is the same. So, okay. Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for giving opportunity to share my research ideas and my work to you. I talk about the electric transport system for the next generations, and uh, my presentation layout of today. Before I go to the presentation layout, I use this abbreviation very frequently. That is electric vehicle, uh, electric EV, internal combustion engine, or IC.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, your mic is mute, I think. You are not audible. Huh? Please unmute.
Oh, okay. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sorry.
Sir, screen. Please share your PowerPoint presentation.
Okay.
That screen is not visible.
Sorry. My apologies. This one, right?
I will request all the participants to mute yourself. Please cooperate so that you can hear the session very clearly. And also switch off your cameras, please. Thank you.
Uh, is it
Yes, sir.
seen clearly right now?
Okay, sir. Yes, clear.
Thank you.
It is clear.
So, so today's topic is electric transport for next generation. So I shall, in my talks, please note down this abbreviation. I'll frequently refer. So I'm not reading out these abbreviations, but these are very common abbreviations that will EV will refer as electric vehicle, IC as a internal combustion engine, FOC as a field oriented control, DDC as a direct torque control, EWS as a efficiency optimized control, artificial intelligent control, and the position sensor control, SRM, HCC, single pass control, VV for the voltage vector, and the TSM as the torque sharing function, and MPC as a model predictive control. These are the frequently this term may be used in my presentations. For this, I am giving you a list of the small abbreviation, and in between you may came across more abbreviations, but I'll first tell the what does it stands by it. So today this is the presentation layout. Introductions of the introduction. Thereafter we talk about the electric vehicle, the next generation electric vehicle. Then we'll talk about the energy storage for the electric vehicle. That is the biggest challenge nowadays. Thereafter, charging system of the electric vehicle. Then EV motors, permanent magnet synchronous motor as one of the contender for the electric vehicle. Then its control, if that is FOC based system and direct torque control. Then we shall discuss about its simulations and the results. Then we talk about another motor as a candidate for the EV application, that is SRM, and then we talk about little bit of future scope of research, and thus we have to talk about the limitations and the impacts of the EVs, and thereafter we have a reference. So we have a pretty long agenda today. Let us start. So this curve shows that most of the carbon emissions comes from the road. Roads not only occupy maximum number of space. If one person is driving an SUV, please understand how much space it occupies. And in the same space, and apart from that, it makes a maximum emission. For this reason, we are now talking about modern electric vehicle drive, so that we will have a transportation system. It is not that the poor will have an IC engine. It is rather the rich person will use also the public transport supported by the electric vehicle, that is pollutionless. So now you see the map, how consumptions of the fuels has been changed from 2000 to 2015. Gasoline, that petrol we are using, because per capita income of the globe is increasing. So for this, more and more number of people in the developing countries will actually go for personal vehicles. For this reason, and commercial activity which increases, then diesel generally picks up. You can see that from 2000 to 2015, gasoline there is around 20% increase, diesel more than 30% increase, and electricity, it is hardly been increased. And thereafter you have also another hybrid entities like bioethanol, biodiesels, and these are the entities also popped in, which is also saves our depleted our fossil fuel. Why electric vehicle? And what is electric vehicle? Any locomotive that operates in an electric motor instead of the internal combustion engine is an electric vehicle. So increasing demand of the fossil fuel is a major issue of the IC engine, and thereafter we have realized that in a society, IC engine is one of the great pollutant, and in the cities like Delhi, you can see that what kind of the pollution mostly contributed by the road transport system. So now let us see the history of the electric vehicle. History of the electric vehicle starts almost simultaneously with the invention of the DC motor and generator. It is once you have a steam engine, then after, of course, the industrial revolutions came, and we go by the steam engines. And thereafter, we have in 1806, we have a first internal combustion engine. Then we have an era of the electric vehicles. Now, what happened, we have to convert the generator into the electric drive, and then we run the motor, DC motor mainly. So this is the first successfully driven engine, and this is the golden era of the electric vehicles. Trams in Calcutta, London, all those places were actually in that area only. Thereafter, after 1924, once that gasoline was invented and with the segregated properly by fractional distillation, then era of the gasoline came. Then electric vehicle took the back seat, and all the car used to be based on the IC engine, and thus EV disappeared in 1924 to 1946. Then again, we came. There was a political problem in mostly related to the Israel and Arab-Israel conflict started, and then all of the sudden that actually price of the gasoline or the crude oil goes up, and then again the concept of the prototype of the EV, people was start thinking, and limited amount of the production of the EV was started in 1970. Then incorporated technology of the EV comes in 1980, and then first generations of the electric vehicle. I am talking about road. I am not talking about the grid connected electric vehicles. So that came. Then in 2000 we have a hybrid electric vehicles, and so on. Now we are moving towards the electric vehicle era again. Now, what should be the next generation electric vehicle? So strength of the electric vehicle is that EV generation, zero emission. But what happens if you are charging the electric vehicle by the, if you are making electric vehicle by the making the electricity by the fossil fuel, then it is not a zero emission. So ultimately you have to charge the electric vehicle with the renewable energy. That is the challenge. Then only you can say that we are opting for the zero emission. Another issue is the quietness. We can have a very quiet machines. We'll see later, and we can have a smooth accelerations and decelerations. Mostly, we want that gearless operation. Many of us are not comfortable with the gears. For example, I personally comfortable in riding Activa rather than a bike, because bike has a gears and Activa doesn't have a gear. So reduce energy of, but you know that Activa is efficient in a particular region of the speed. But how can you extend it to the larger extent? Thereafter, reduce cost of the electricity. That I'll come into the calculation. I will show that yes, the ages of the electric vehicle has come. Now another is the social needs. That is the new application, extended range and the locations. We can go to the electric locomotive and maybe metros. That is restricted to the urban infrastructures. If you go to the rural infrastructure, rural places, infrastructure required to be created. And thereafter, we may have some extended hours of operations for the infrastructure required. Thereafter, extended range of the applications. Based on that, we have our infrastructure we have to talk about that has to be managed properly. So we can see that this is the new urban transport platform. There, you will have all the information, where the people will buy ticket, when the people will buy ticket, how much people will travel in which hours, and whether they will use the public transport or the personal transport. And based on that, based on the road condition, you will map out, and so that properly or seamlessly transportations activity can take place. So this is the modern platform of control of the urban transport, where smart electric vehicle plays a very important role. So, for example, while making a new, as you have seen that most of the cities have the metro connectivity. So, what we are looking for, these are the few entities that we are looking for. It should be close to the shopping district, like if it should have a easy connectivity to a shopping mall or a shopping complex. Thereafter it should be easily it may be easily connected to the closest railway stations. It should be closest to the bus stop. Based on that, we will let a grid connected periphery and the charging station, so that buses as well as the personalized vehicle can be utilized in maximum possible way. So now these are the few agencies that come into the pictures. We say that public transportation priority based system, there will be an interconnecting body. So there will be a road administration, that is basically traffic police. There will be a bus operator. Based on that service frequencies, bus will be operated. There will be a railway operation, bus and railway connectivity, and there will be dynamic mapping information, how much people is living from which place. Based on that, buses service can be also monitored and regulated. So now let us talk about the development of the EV. As you can see that development of the EV, so this is basically, in China, BEV stands for the battery electric vehicle. Uh, uh, and this is in China, and thereafter this is in Europe, and thereafter it is in the United States. And PH electric vehicle stands for fuel cell based hybrid electric vehicle, and that also gradually popped in. These are the data of 19 pre-COVID. Of course, it has all sank nowadays. Now, if you look after for us, those who are the mainly researchers, we look after the block diagram of the EV propulsion system as such. You have an electronic controller. Based on that, what kind of drive system you will do, that will be depend. You may have a variable frequency. Most of the motor nowadays are brushless, and thus these are the AC motors. These are voltage variable frequency drive you can implement, that is called scalar control. That you may have a FOC, that is vector control, and you want that speed to be measured from the electrical parameter. No encoder you will place, that is MRAC, and thereafter you can use other methods also. Same way you will have a hardware. You can have if you have a very simple control system, then you can go for the microcontroller or the microprocessor. And if you have a little complex system, then you require to have a DSP based processors or FPGA based processors. Based on the power rating, you will choose that different kind of power converter. Up to 100 kilowatt, we prefer IGBTs, and above 100 kilowatts, we prefer GTOs. MOSFET is generally hardly used, for maybe the part of the charging circuit may be used, and BJT, because of the invention of the IGBT, it is not been used nowadays. Now you have a different kind of topology. If you have a DC motor drive, then you have a chopper. Otherwise, you have a PWM inverter, or if you want that zero loss to be reduced, then you go for the resonance inverter. And then you have a electric motor design. Then we go for the finite element analysis, thermal graphics, that is called computer aided design. And based on that, you will mechanical specification will come. Based on that, you will choose the motor, because they will say that this much of space is available, this much of torque you require to develop, because you cannot go for the first choosing the machine, then only you do for the CAD. CAD will give you the amount of the space, amount of the thermal heating that is allowed, all those elements, and based on that you will choose a type of machine. Simplest is definitely DC machines, but because of the maintenance problem, it has been phased out nowadays. And we have induction machines, but you know that mostly it is required a gear, because it is done at a constant frequency, at a constant speed, and its rated torque generally given to that particular speed. For this reason, you require to have a gears to change the speed of the motor. And instead of that, you can have SRM, switch reluctance motor. Switch reluctance motor, very simple in construction, we'll see little later. And thereafter you can have a PMSM, that is permanent magnet synchronous motor, and other are different type of permanent magnet motor, and these are the transmission systems of the electric vehicle. Now, what we want from the electric vehicle, what are the, because you know, if you have a personalized electric vehicle, that is your pride possessions, and same for also the road transport by the mass communication by like electric buses. So higher instant power and the high power density, that is one of the challenge, because we require a high starting torque to have a faster pickup and overcome the inertia. High torque at the low speed and combining with the and also it should be at the space of the cruising. Very wide range of the speed, including the constant torque and the constant power region. So you can have, once you have speed up, you can maintain that little bit of lower torque, and thus you are moving at a constant speed to overcome the rotational inertia and the air frictions. So at that time you can go to the higher speed by the sacrifices of the torque, but you can go to the higher speed. And faster torque response, that is also very much required. You want to stop the car, or you want to have a faster accelerations, and that is one of the requirement in the urban transport system. High efficiency, that is one of the requirement that will increase the lifespan of the battery as well as the motor, and high efficiency with the regenerative braking. These are the features we should be looking for. Now this is the typical EV configurations. There is a brake and accelerations, and you don't have a gear. We are now living, we wanted to say no to the gears. So electronic controller will sense your command. Based on that, you know, we have an energy management system. We can have a different kind of batteries. I'll come later. I am putting out the nickel type battery, or it may be lithium ion battery, anything. It is a PWM inverter. So it will act as a DC bus voltage, and now what happens? This run this induction motor. Now it may be also PMSM. Thereafter you have a fixed gearing and the differentials, and you have a steering, and you have a auxiliary power supply also, that is for the cooler and heater, because the engine will heat up. And you have a AC power supplies, and that will charge the battery once it is in a stop condition. Now this is the electric vehicle platform. You have a battery, and then you have an inverter, then you have a DC motor and the generator. That means when it is regenerative braking, it is a generator, otherwise it is a motor. Thereafter you have a transmission system, and pardon me. So now this is for the plugged-in electric vehicle. And this is for the FCVs. And now you can see that another method is an inverter, motor, engine. Thereafter you have a hybrid kind of this is IC engine and the fuel. And this is the concept of the hybrid electric vehicle. But India actually is looking for the electric vehicle, not that hybrid electric vehicle as a policy. So now onward, our talk will be based on that hybrid electric vehicle instead of hybrid electric vehicle. These are the four categories which has been mentioned here. Battery electric vehicle, that is BEV, I have shown you the figure. They are the pure electric vehicle, that is PEV, that doesn't control any other supported IC engine. Plugged-in hybrid electric vehicle, that is PHEV, and hybrid electric vehicle, that is HEV, and the fuel cell based electric vehicle, that is FEV. These are the few type of electric vehicle nowadays used. Now you see that this is the area where IC engine and the motor overlaps. Once you have a IC engine and the motor both, these are the hybrid. So for this reason you have a micro HEV, mild HEV. So based on that, where it what? You know, you can see that micro HEV, so motor part is minimal, engine part is more. And whereas, you know, REV, motor part is more, engine part, that is IC engine part, is minimal. And of course, you know, this part uses electricity, that is the motor, and this part, IC engine, uses the gasoline or diesel. And if it is a fuel cell, it uses hydrogen. So this is the wall of the map and the classification. Based on that, different kind of hybrid electric vehicles are chosen. Now, these are the few advantages and disadvantages and the features of the different type of battery electric vehicle, totally run by the electric motor, and source is the battery. But you know, you are maybe decelerating and you are stopping within 5 or 10 seconds, and you are running at maybe at 20 meters per second. It is a 10 to the power 6 joule type of energy if you have a 2-ton weight car, half MV square. So that amount of energy, if we divide by the time, so it's a huge amount of power. That amount of power, if you want to charge the battery, it is not possible. For this reason, you have ultra capacitor, so that while acceleration and deceleration, they comes into the picture and they takes out this buffer and maintain also the DC bus voltage. One of the advantage, definitely these are the emission less, and doesn't depend on the oil. Range depends on the type of the battery. I'll come little later what type of battery is be used and all those things. Battery price are the problem, because you know, I can give an example. You know, you have a Tata's car, they have a electric versions as well as the diesel or the petrol version. Price difference is around 5 lakhs. So of course, the charging time, I'll talk about the first charge. I will address those issues because these are the problem, and thus we are researcher required to address those challenges. And availability of the charging station and high price. Thereafter, you may have HEV, hybrid electric vehicle. Of course, one of the problem here you address these issues, availability of the charging station. But problem is that it is a quite high price, because you have both engine, IC engine as well as the motor, and so battery and the energy size has to be optimized. And thereafter you have a fuel cell base. One of the disadvantage of the fuel cell is that its energy density is quite low. Thus, for the proper running with the autonomy means you fill up the tank of the motor car, it can run 500 kilometers. So that is one of the biggest challenge of it, and also the availability of the fuel cell and to replace the fuel cell. These are the few challenges of the FC. Now, I define different kind of mode of operations of the hybrid electric vehicle. Once is passing, that is battery will feed the power to the electric motor, and IC engine also will feed the power. Generally, once you are going very fast or acceleration, then it will give to the powertrain. Both this IC engine and the motor will operate. Then we say that it is passing mode. Braking mode, once we apply the brake, then IC engine almost stop. Then electric train will reverts back its energy to the motor to the battery, it will charge the battery. Another is cruising. At that time, mostly electric vehicle is take a back set. We run it by the IC engine and we also charge the battery. These are the this is a Toyota Prius, one of the successful EV car. So power electronics and these are the few entities has to be are the main features of this electric vehicle. One, you have a power electronics and the electric machines. Thereafter, energy storage. You require to have a regenerative control, vehicle modeling and the simulations and its dynamics, aerodynamics, etc. Vehicle design and optimization, size, cost, waste, everything. Thereafter, thermal management and control, and the vehicle power management. So with the how much amount of the battery required to place so that with single charge how much kilometer it can go. Now storage. So storage is the important issue of this electric vehicle. For automotive applications, we require safety, reliability of life, and we talk about the energy per unit weight and the volume and the cost. Safety challenge with a larger cell is more, and large cell were introduced as a battery in 2012 onward, and we shall see that at present, that is the last statement reads high energy 18650. That's what the literature survey says. It may be more than that. Deliver 50% of the higher energy than the larger current cell. Now, lead acid batteries are now phasing out like DC motor. Now we are going for but one of the advantage of the lead acid battery is the cheap. They remain cheapest for the battery unit. Lithium ion have the sufficient energy density to be used for the medium range vehicle and can be charged relatively fast. There are no batteries that currently shows a sign of the enabling pure EV for the versatile application and the range that the IC engine can provide. So these are the few comparisons of the different kind of batteries that we can use for the BEV, that is battery electric vehicle. We are literally trying to phase out the lead acid because lead acid is more hazardous than the toxic gases. So ultimately, no point of replacing carbon dioxide with the lead acid. But however, still, if the environment is not a major issue in some places, we can use the lead acid. So one of the advantages is that it is a mature technology. So we can put out the power plant battery plant very easily. Cannot discharge more than 20% of the capacity, and these are one of the disadvantage which has been mentioned. Now we talk about the nickel metal hydroxide. These are the new entrant, and generally it is harmless, environmental friendly, recyclable, can store volumetric power and having a larger and the longer cycles. But disadvantage is that it reduces the lifetime around 200 to 300 cycles, and thereafter it will decay its lifespan. So ultimately you require to replace it after some point of time. Now better is definitely the lithium ion batteries, but problem with the lithium ion battery is that it has a high cost. Recharging still takes quite long time, but it is better than the most of the batteries. But otherwise, it has many advantages. Mostly we now prefer lithium ion batteries because of the recyclability, low memory effect, high specific power, high specific density, long battery life. There it was, previous battery was battery life was 200 to 300 cycles. Here it can charge more than 1000 cycles. Now another definitely, it is nickel zinc battery. It is now gaining popularity. So it is not yet a proven technology. Not many manufacturers are manufacturing it. This is one of the biggest challenges. Same with the nickel cadmium batteries. It has a many advantages like lithium ion batteries, long life, and it can discharge fully without being damaged. And for this reason, most of the batteries nowadays used in mobile are the nickel cadmium type batteries. Now, what we are looking for the battery for the electric vehicles? Energy density can be attained with one charge provided as a long to provide the long mileage. High energy density with deep discharge to allow the acceleration and deceleration to happen in the electric vehicle. Long cycle of life without or with very little maintenance. With acceptance of the recyclability, we can reuse it. Now you see that this is the scenario of the estimated electric vehicle cells and the battery pack costs. So this is of course this is a projections. Of course there are some issues with the projections nowadays. So this is this one first one is a battery cost in a medium volume that is coming down. But in a high cost it is going up, and also the sale of the electric vehicles is also ramping. It is ramping exponentially. Now these are the few examples of the electricity consumptions of the different models of the popular car. I unfortunately failed to get the data of the Indian car available in the Indian roads. It should be available in a couple of years now. That is, Hyundai Kona. Thereafter, Tata also has a electric vehicles. So this is, you can see this y-axis is electricity consumptions for 100 miles. You can see that Tesla consumes high energy. And it started in 2013 to 2016. Now, thereafter, you have a Chevrolet Bolt. Gradually, they are switching over to the motor technology. Still, Tesla works on mainly induction machines, so it has a maximum power consumptions. So Renault Zoe is also reducing. Thereafter, BMW i3 that uses the most modern machines, mostly is a permanent magnet motor, and thus we have a less power consumptions per 100 miles. So now let's talk about different kind of lithium-ion cells presently employed by the electric vehicle companies. That is, it can be graphite. This is a chemistry, and you can see that let's talk about this a pouch. So thereafter we have a different kind of entity to be made, and this is a voltage of per cell, and you can see that this is a weight of the pouch, and thereafter is the volume of the pouch. This is the energy density. It is a kilowatt hour by liter. So 1 kilowatt hour if you require, so how much will be the and how much will be the weight, and company is a Nissan, and this is a model. So I'll share these slides, you can go through it. So you can choose based on your thermal energy densities what kind of battery. If you're sticking to the lithium ion, I failed to get similar data with a nickel cadmium and other. So and now lithium ion is a proven technology. Most of the electric vehicle uses the lithium ion cells for the electric vehicle. Now, different charging alternative. So we have to understand it. So we can have wireless. Another concept is that battery swapping. That is our cylinder model. So what happened, you give the discharge battery and take up the new battery. But there is a challenge, how much cycles it has charged and discharged. That matters. For this, you have to choose the battery which has a no memory or the less memory, which we have seen earlier. Now, it can be a single phase motor. Generally, it is obsolete. It can be a 3-phase motor, and it may be a DC charging. And depending on the how much power rating, low power, it is up to 3.7 kilowatt used for the trolley buses or this applications like in airports. It is around 3.7 kilowatt. Medium power, it is 3.7 to 22 kilowatts. Thereafter, you have a high power, that is mostly it is suitable for the electric vehicles or the cars, and mostly very high power, that is 50 kilowatt hour, that is for only for the buses. Now, accessibility, it may be in a private domain, it may be a public-private partnership, it may be other method also. It may be actually no payment, sometimes happens for the promotion, a fixed monthly rate, you can have a charge per pay, and the informations you can have no informations, and you can have unidirectional information. The customer can know the specific information. Thereafter, identifications of the free access, which slot is available there. The IoT comes into the picture. I wanted to know which charging station is available in my city near to my location, so that I get into the place, I can charge my car and I can come back. So thereafter, roaming, non-roaming, and the central clearing agent also, these are the two infrastructure for the EV required to be developed, where IoT and the information technology, cloud computing plays a very important role. Now let's come to the power electronics, that is my comfortable area. So we require to charge the battery, and we have an aspiration that the time I take it to fill up my tank of the petrol or the diesel car, I'll take the same amount of time. Of course, if you have a long queue, that's a different issue. Otherwise, you fill up the car within the 5 to 10 minutes. So this is a simple equivalent circuits of the battery. We have a variable R and C, and this is the battery pack of the charging stations for the medium voltage level from ABB. Now we have a electrode, we have a cells, we have a modular integrated BMS, and these are the battery packs. All are generally packed into any of the electric vehicle if you open it. Now you can have a AC charging and you have a DC charging. You have both the cases. Maybe you have a solar power point is available, and thus you charge this from the solar, and thus you may have a DC charging, and otherwise if you are charging from the grid, it is AC charging. And mostly it is AC charging. You have a line frequency transformer. Thereafter you have a LCL filter. Then you have a AC to DC converter. AC to DC converter makes it DC with the power factor and the THD to be minimized. For this reason, it is a active power rectification. Thereafter, you have a DC to DC converter to charge it to the particular level. I'll come the charging operation after some slides. So generally, it depends on the kind of topology will be used. If you are charging a battery, generally we use isolated DC to DC converter for the charging topology. And we have you name it, flyback, thereafter forward, thereafter push pull, thereafter half bridge, thereafter full bridge. I have shown here full bridge because flyback converter can operate the charging like your laptop. It is around 100, around 56 to 60 watt, and it is below 100 watt. Now, if it is around 500 watt, we go for the forward converter. If it is above it, we go for the push-pull converter. Then if we go for the half bridge converter, then it is a full bridge converter. That should be the topology we will be using. Now we have a power grid and we have power analyzers. From there we'll see that what are the power quality. We have to ensure that power quality is good. Then we have a charging station, there is a charging pole, an electric vehicle, then CAN recorder. That is, once charging of the battery vehicles is a electrodynamic process. First we will charge it to the constant, I'll come it few slides later. First we will charge it to the constant current mode, then constant voltage mode. So if it is not being charged, then definitely it will be converted to the heat. So heat will be the measurement that whether the battery is charging or it has been wasted. So we require to change the mode of charging. So this is then one example. You can see that. So I just take the one cup. Let's take red one is the one of the first charging concept. So you have this is a DC current from the DC to DC converter. So first you charge at a constant current, which called it is CC. So thereafter what happened? Till this point of time, this is the energy of the battery. So thereafter you gradually decrease the current. You can see that battery voltage. By this time it has reached almost the 360 volt. Now, but you only have charge. It has a capacity of the 16 watt. Only 25% has charged. And there is another 75%. So for this reason, you have to go for charging. This is the red one, and thus you have to go for this, and gradually you will have that energy. So similarly, you can take the black one with a constant flat charge. So there, what will happen? Pardon me. And what will happen? You can see that DC voltage will gradually increase like this, but it will take pretty longer time. Which curve you will choose, that depends, and that will give you the charging method. This is all that the slow charge, and we will measure accordingly. And we have to do it something like that. Maybe the blue one is preferred because you charge it medium current range and you continue to charge. Ultimately, you can see that it has reached the density quite fast and quite the normal value. Now, also what happened in constant charging mode, constant current mode, voltage of the battery increases. So thus supply voltage remains constant and your voltage of the battery increases, thus internal resistance initially you will see that there is a change of the internal resistance. This is the value of the internal resistance initially. And from the value of the internal resistance, we have to also make it the mode of the charge. So once it is increasing, fine. So then all of a sudden, once you see that it is decreasing, then we have to switch over to the constant current mode to the constant voltage mode. And also it has a temperature deficiencies. So appropriate temperature we have to maintain. You can see that at 10 degrees centigrade, I have not get the value of the 0. So 25 ampere charging, and thereafter we can go for the, if it is 0 to 10, because it is a thermodynamic reaction, 10 to 20 degrees centigrade, you can go to the 50 ampere of charging. If it is above 20 degrees centigrade, you can go for the 125 ampere of charging. So this is the DC power you can see, and also the efficiency. You can see that black one, I just go back, this is the black one, gives you the best efficiency. But anyway, but for the faster charging, we require to go for the blue one or the yellow one. Now, another issue is that if battery directs itself, form its rating, and with a number of cycles. So if you start with the number of cycle, I have shown you the previous cycle. This is for the lithium-ion batteries. I told you, it has a life cycles of around 1000 cycles. You can see that once the cycles increases, so it has to be de-rated. Either it has to be replaced or it has to be fill up the pack so that it will continue to work with a 100% efficiency. These are the factors affecting the battery charging efficiency. Now, efficiency of the charging and the discharging. Now, charge discharge of the traction batteries. Now, charging current, charging time, charge voltage. Now, another is that self-discharge, depth of discharge, foaming time, battery storage, all will define the battery efficiency. So if you want to have a better efficiency, so it is the optimality of all those entities. So we thus say in word as a battery management system. So battery management system is a very big part of the efficiency of the electric vehicle. Now, battery failure modes also very important. That also comes under the battery monitoring system. So significant charging and the depth of discharging may rise to the battery failure. High temperature leads to the battery failure. Grid expansion leads to the battery failure, and separation of the positive plate and the negative plate, or deterioration of the positive plate. Even if at a low temperature, it is the batteries are chemically inactive, then also we may also destroy the battery by feeding the large current. Now, we talked about battery. Now we'll talk about the electric vehicle. What kind of motor is suitable? Now, you have electric vehicles, you have a brushed, another is brushless, one is self-excited, another is separately excited. So we don't talk about mainly the brush, that is DC one, it is almost phased out. Now we are talking about the future. So there is no scope of future of the brush DC motor. Processing, we talk about the brush DC motor. This can be induction motor, and we generally prefer the squirrel cage induction motor with the V/F control, and Tesla mostly uses that, but as you have seen, its efficiency is less. And the synchronous motor, among them, that permanent magnet motor is a prominent contender. Thereafter, you may have a permanent magnet brushless DC motor. You may have a rotor permanent magnet as a stator permanent magnet. We prefer the rotor to be permanent magnet, and you have a different kind of stator permanent magnet, but it is not used into the electric vehicle life. And another important contender, which is little bit actually blackened, is the switch reluctance motor. Now let us compare between the electric motors. So maximum torque is quite high in case of the DC series motor. We have studied from our BTEC days. A disadvantage is the bulky structure, low efficiency, and we have a heat generations in the brushes. Brushes has to be replaced. So old Fiat Panda electric motors and other few motors used to use, these are the cars of late 70s. Now we are no longer using it. Now, of course, the prime contender is in an electric vehicle, the permanent magnet DC motor, JLDC, and since it doesn't have any, so no rotor copper loss is there, more efficiency in the induction motor. It is lighter, smaller, better heat dissipation, efficiency is more reliable, and its torque density is higher, and for this reason we prefer it. However, it comes with a lower power rating. That is one of the biggest challenges. Short constant power range, decreased torque with the increasing speed. That is also a very big challenge because it has a huge area of the constant power range. That's you have to, if you reduce the speed at the cost of the reduction of the torque. Now, for this reason, we are looking for the permanent magnet motor. Permanent magnet synchronous motor is one of the prime contender. Now, almost all the electric, non-electric vehicle uses it. It has many advantages. It is compact, suitable for the in-wheel application, high torque at a very low speed, and huge. But problem lies, it has got a huge eddy current loss. Huge eddy current loss. You have to see some mechanism to reduce eddy current loss if you want to rate it at a higher rate. So that challenge, if you can address, then you can solve a lot of problems. Now, induction motor, generally Tesla uses it. One of the problem of that, it has low torque to inertia ratio, but we can still operate like a DC motor by the vector control. Separately excited DC motor like a vector control. Now, new contender is an SRM. One of the challenge of the PMSM that sourcing of the electromagnet, sourcing of the permanent magnet, and those permanent magnet is available in a particular geographical location, mostly in the North China, and thus it has been a single source. For this reason, Swiss electric motor also gaining its gaining as establishing itself as a major contender for the electric vehicle. It has many advantages, and we shall discuss in detail about it a little later. But however, it has some problem that is a noisy, its torque is pulsating. So these are the problem has to be addressed so that we can smooth out it. Another contender is that axial flux, iron-less permanent magnet motor. Previously it was radial flux. Now this one is axial flux. And it has a very big advantage of the problem of the eddy current losses perspective. Thus, higher power density is possible. But however, manufacturability is a very big challenge of this kind of motor. Now, let us see about the permanent magnet motor. So, mostly the stator has a three-phase winding induction, like an induction winding. But generally, the stator is made of the permanent magnet, and magnetic field on the rotor helps to rotate the motor in a synchronous speed, and thus you have to give a variable frequency supply, rotate at a various speed, and it is not also self-standing. So this is a different kind of magnetic material that you can use. Nickel, if it is contain nickel, that is Alnico, that is available, but problem of nickel is also a strategic material. That means it is used for the for the fission material. So if it is used as a fission material, generally it is not tradable. For this reason, we cannot manufacture Alnico as much as we can. And these are the few electromagnets. It is only available in the Mongolia and the China. And for this reasons, this is a very big challenge. We generally look for this Neo N25 or Neo N42, this kind of magnetic material that will have makes the motor, permanent magnet motor, very compact in design. You see that this is the curve. It is this is the B point is a no load, and D point is a full load. So if you actually have a full load, then it generally demagnetizing effect come, and this is a coercivity. And generally this is the range of the full this is a worst case condition of 20% or 30% overloading, and this is the full load, and this is the no load, and within this range it should be restricted. So that will be a very good design, and ultimately it will give a very good design performance. If you go further, then drastically the value of the permanent magnet will go down, and thus value of the torque, reluctance torque also will. So these are the few salient features of the PMSM based electric vehicle, that is the higher efficiency, high power density, higher torque to inertia ratio, superior overload capacity, and all are the advantage. Now we talk about its analysis. So of course, you know that to analysis it, it is better to do it in a DQ frame. Why it is advantageous? Because you know that this SC parameter looks like the DC parameters, and generally we have a rotor field orientations. And for this, in what we generally do first, we first convert the ABC frame to the alpha beta frame. It's nothing, just resolving the 3 vectors into the 2 vectors of phasors. So thus this is with the transportation matrix. Once we get into the alpha beta frame, we rotate the alpha beta frame at an angle omega, that is a synchronous speed. Then it becomes a DQ frame. And in DQ frame, if it is generally it is O is 0, and because O is a 0 sequence component. Otherwise, this will be remain there. So, and of course, you can transform to the ABC to the DQ in between alpha beta frame is not required. That is called the path transformation. And of course, you can have a reverse path transformation. That means you can convert to the DQ to ABC. So now these are the examples of the voltage and the current in the DQ frame. And however, you can see that there is a cross term. So this is the D-axis component of the stator voltage, and with that you have, you know, Q into QS, that is the flux linkage, and definitely it is Vs. You will find omega R into ds. So you have the voltage also depends on the speed. And now as we know that RT and the RQ are the D-axis, and the D-axis and the Q-axis resistance and the inductance and all the currents, and phi r is the flux linkage for the, and where phi ds will have the LDS into IDS plus that extra you will get for the flux linkage due to the permanent magnet, and whereas the phi QS will be LQS into IQS. Now, this is the PLL to generate the theta. You will have a ABC frame. Now you transfer to ABC to DQ, and generally once you aligned A phase with that D phase, so Q axis component required to be 0, and from there, you know, actually you can set the value of the theta by the PI controller, and thus you get the value of the theta. That theta has to be fed. Otherwise, what you can do, you know, for the sensorless operation, you can have a current calculations. From there, you can have a ID and IQ, but mind it, this is a cost term. There are the speed and torque calculation. You got a torque and the speed. This is the reference torque and the reference speed, and you, by integrating the reference speed, you get the position of the rotor, that is theta r. So now this is the FOC. We say that it is a field oriented control. One of the main advantage of the field oriented control is the independent. We treat that permanent magnet on the induction motor like a separated excited DC motor. You can independently control the flux and the current, and thus the torque and the speed. So for this reason, we go for the FOC, and FOC is quite well adopted in case of the PMSL, which was first extended to the induction motor. Now it has been well adopted phenomena in case of the FOC, in case of the PMSM. So this is the block diagram of the FOC based PMSM. That is not, though it is not a sensorless control, we generally wanted to have a sensorless. We have a reference speed command. From there you got a actual speed coming from the encoder. So then you will subtract it. Generally it is a PI controller. From there you get a reference of the IQ star, and IQ star will come and you get the IQ from here, from the actual measurement of the ABC to the DQ, and you subtract it. Then you have another PI controller that will give you the VQ, Similarly, you generally want it to the value of the ID should be 0, and then actual ID will be actually tracked from the encoder from this stator current, and that has to be transformed, and thereafter it will be subtracted. Then it will generate the VD and VQ. From there you will go to the alpha beta frame. Generally, space vector modulation gives you better utilization of that DC bus voltage. We'll go for the space vector voltage. You can have a 2 level, 3 level, any level of the inverter, and you can have 4-quadrant operation where you can take out the speed and other control strategies you can implement. This is some simulation results which our group has performed. You can see that for the PMSM based FOC, is a reference speed blue one, and actual speed is a red one. All of a sudden you give a chart of the speed. It is follows. This is a torque value, and this is the current, and this is the zoom out portion of the current, and you can see that it is a good sinusoidal current with a good power quality. So this is the supply voltage from the inverter, and this is the direct axis of the quadrature axis voltage and current, and these are the load torque. This is the electromechanical torque. This is the speed, and thereafter measure speed, and this is the position of the theta. Now, one of the disadvantage of the FOC is that one of the disadvantage of the FOC is that it has a huge dependence on the theta. If we measure theta wrong way or it is estimated wrongly, then the parameter cannot be decoupled, and thus, it has got a parameter sensitivity is a very big issues, because you have a RDS and all those entities. It will change those value. It will change the value of the resistances. So for this reason, we prefer another method that is called direct torque control, where accurate estimations of this theta is not much necessary. But also, which I have told you earlier, what are the correct fast dynamic response, high starting torque, all those issues can be achieved. So this method is called direct torque control. In any electrical machines, so we know that it is the cross product of the phi s and the psi s and the psi r into sine delta. So ultimately, you have the torque equations. So to control the electromagnetic torque of any machine, angle between stator flux and the rotor flux is required to be controlled, and you got a maximum when they are 90 degrees. So this concept was utilized by Takahashi and Naguchi for the induction machine drive. Same can be extended to the permanent magnet motor. So these are the few advantages of the DTC which I have mentioned earlier, that DTC has a several advantage, that no coordinate transformations. Like it is independent of the encoders. If encoder is giving wrong positions, then it will not act properly. Less dependency, as I told you, there is a cold resistance and the hot resistance. So value of the VDS and the VQ, what you are estimating in the cold, that will change in case of the hot resistance. So less dependency on the motor parameter, for example, the stator resistances. Quick transient response, we'll see that since you have a direct torque control, your response is quite fast and rather comparable. It is not at all inferior from the FOC, and simplified control and low computational time. Due to those advantages, we are now also investigating the direct torque. You take the example of this figure. Okay, this is the DTC, where you give the negative torque command to decelerate. You can see that this is for the 5 HP motor. So now you initiate the change in the torque, and you can actually within 0.8 millisecond you can change the command of the torque, and thus you can also take the effect of the reverse speed. But whereas in case of the simple PWM control method, current control method, so you can give the negative pulses, negative modulation index or something like that. You can see that. So, it will go like this, that it will ramp on like this, then it may oscillate, and ultimately it will take, if you settle down, it will take around 5.6 seconds. So it is quite faster, having a good dynamic response compared to the PWM controller. So now this is a block diagram of DTC based PWM, and you see that it is quite simple. We don't have any measurement from the encoder of the PMSM. So for this, you have a torque command. So if you want to increase the torque, so from there you got a actual torque to be estimated from the torque and the flux estimated. For this you require to have a lookup table. That lookup table you have to make it quite, it has to be quite sacrosanct. So from there, you got a torque, electrical torque, and that error will be fed to the torque comparator. You know that PI controller, unless you know the physical system, its mathematical model, designing of the PI controller is a very big headache. So here, since it is a hysteresis loop, so it is an on-off type control. So for this reason, you will have, it is very easy to design. So you have a torque comparator. Similarly, you have a flux comparator. So you have stator flux because rotor, you have a permanent magnet. So you have a flux comparator, and thus you give it to the hysteresis comparator of the flux time, and based on that we have a, I just come after this slide, I explain it. So based on the different position of the torque, +1, 0, -1, depending on the error. So you have a table, and same way for the flux, and thus you got a combination of the switching table. From the switching table, you can trigger the IGBTs or this switching devices to control the PM. So these are the same thing. It is a space vectors modulation technique for the 2-level inverter. That is, same thing can be extended for this, and number of sectors is, but of course you can go for the higher level with the higher level splitting of this torque controller as well as the flux controller. For sake of simplicity, I was discussing that 2-level inverter with the DTC you can check. So you have a 1 level, 2 level, 3 level, 4 level. So for this in flux and torque, you can have plus and -1. Similarly, torque can have +1, -1. If it is in a hysteresis loop, it is considered to be 0. So based on that, you will choose a particular sector. Now this is the identifications of the sector. As you know, if you integrate the back EMF, you get the stator flux, it is phi s. So Vs minus Rs into Is dt is essentially is the phi s, and is a back EMF. So back EMF, if you integrate, you get the flux. And neglecting the stator winding drop, it is running at a high speed. So then current is quite less, but it will not work at a low speed condition. That is a challenge to estimate the stator flux at the lower speed, where Vs and this drop will be almost the same. So this is the error of the flux, and this is the error of the torque. 1, 2, 3 stands for plus, 0, -1, and same way, and flux we have split it +1 and -1. It has been represented by 1 and 2. And based on that, if it is 1 and 1, so you can choose the B2 will be equal to, pardon me. So, so if it is 1 and 1, so this will be the combinations. So which one you are, you have to sense. If it is a zone 1, that is 0 to 60 degree, you will trigger the V2. Similarly, V3, V4, V6, V1. And if it is 1, 0, 2 stands for 0, then you'll give the null vector in the first quadrant, and then you'll get a vector 7 in the second quadrant, and so on. Based on this lookup table, you can get you can implement the space vector. So this is an example. This is a experimental results of the 2-level DTC. So this is the reference torque and the blue one, and the actual torque is the pink one. You can see that little ripple in it because it is a hysteresis controller, and you have a stator current, and it is quite sinusoidal without filter also. And you have a THD around 13%. Now, what are the challenges from there? You have seen that there is a huge torque pulsation. So, however, due to the less number of the available active voltage vector, it suffers from the huge torque. I have not seen the flux, both torque and the flux pulsation. Another disadvantage of the DTC is that it is a variable switching frequency operation. Thus, what will happen, that is one of the challenge we require to address it. So designing the filter is a challenge because we have seen that there is a 13% THD. We don't accept 13% THD for any kind of motor application. It will deteriorate the life of the motor. For this, we require to bring that around 3%. So for this, we require to design a filter. If you have a variable frequency operation, how you design the filter? That is also one of the biggest challenge in case of the variable switching frequency. To reduce the torque and the flux ripple, DTC we require to modify it, and we'll see that we can go for the multi-level DTC, and their torque and the flux ripple can also be reduced. So you can go for the 3-level diode clamp inverter, same thing. So, and here you have that it is just a 3-level space vector modulation technique. Same combinations can be used, and thus you can get a higher voltage vector, and in that way you can reduce the torque and the flux ripple. So now you have to see that what should be the combinations. So 0 voltage vectors, it is 0, 0, 0, 0. So these are the 0 voltage vector. Small vectors is 1, 0, 0, and thereafter you have medium voltage vectors. There are large voltage vectors. Accordingly, you will be switch it up, and this is your same waveform. Upper one is a torque command, reference torque, and the pink one is your actual torque. You can see that it has considerably reduced the value of the torque ripple. Same way also the value of the current. Here the THD comes out to be the 8% instead of the 13% in the previous experimental results. Now, of course, we can go to the higher level of the DTC. That is the way of investigations, and you can work for it, and also you can opt for the constant switching frequency based DTC. The torque ripple reduction is minimized with a higher voltage in higher level of the inverter. However, problem of the variable switching frequency, as I told you, still persists. Several topology has been proposed. Till now, none of them has given the desired results, and thus it is an area of the investigation researcher like you and me. Now, how does the torque controller work? This is an example how the DTC will work. This is the This is the torque reference. You have actual torque. You have this hysteresis loop. From there you have an AND OR gate, and you will have this multiplication, and thus you have this is a conventional torque controller. Similarly, you can have this reference, and you can get, we wanted to have a constant torque, a constant frequency operation. That is our work. We have communicated this paper to the IEEE Industrial Electronics. First review has came. We are expecting that paper should be reported into the couple of months. So there, the challenge of the constant frequency has been removed by introducing a PWM type controller here, and once it gives you the, we have to choose that ripple value as a torque ripple value, and then you feed it to this controller. Ultimately, you will see that it is a constant frequency operation. Now, this is a flow chart for the constant frequency operations of this constant frequency operation of this type of DTC. Now we have the Clark transformation. Previous one, sorry, pardon me. So you have sense the voltage and current. It is nothing new. Now you have a conversions, and based on that, you know that what will be the switching pattern. VA will be VDC by S1, S2 minus S5. So you do the Clark transformation, and thus you get to the alpha beta frame. You get an alpha beta from equation 1 and 2. You get the lambda alpha, lambda beta. From there you get the sectors. From sector you have a torque reference and the torque ripple. You can have a PI controller with this wave. We'll have a with switching frequency that you can choose, that can be 1 kilowatts, 2 kilowatts, 5 kilowatts, depending on the rate of your processors. But you will accept its length, its magnitude as the maximum torque ripple. Thereafter, it gives you the torque hysteresis. Same thing, you can have flux hysteresis, and based on that lookup, you can shoot up the switches. Now this is the results with a 2-level constant frequency based DTC. It is 2-level. Previously I have seen you the 3-level. You can see that advantage. Then you can get the current TSD of 7% with a 2-level. So by controlling the constant switching frequency, you can reduce the number of level and the switches. So of course it is quite better solutions, and if you go for the now we are working on it, so I just reserve my comment on it. So but we are getting a very good results for the 3-level constant switching frequency based DTC, and which we can expect that which can be operated without any filter. Now these are the current harmonic spectrum for the DTC, for the conventional spectrum. So that is the 3-level, and that is for the 2-level with the DTC. Now this is the work, and the challenges can be addressed in case of the electric vehicle with the permanent magnet. Same thing, one of the disadvantage of the permanent magnet is that availability, because you have to get a good permanent magnet motor. So as it has been challenged, it has been single source due to that, and manufacturability also been a challenge. For this reason, we go for the simplest solutions, that is SRL. It is very easy to construct, it is rugged, it is low priced, everything, but it has a problem of the torque ripple. So how can you reduce the torque ripple, and thus you will get a merit to use it as an electric vehicle. Otherwise, it has a very big advantage. Now, that's what I was saying, that it has a doubly silent saliency, and I'll explain it. It has a singly excited. It has a concentrated winding. It doesn't use a permanent magnet, so you can use the iron core. No permanent magnet in a conduction of the rotor. Compact, low cost, and low. You see that, So essentially, you have a switch. Thereafter, one phase will come that can be modeled as an inductor, and then it will return with another switch path, and within that you have a diode. Similarly, you can have this and this. Within that, we will have another phase, another inductor, and another inductor will be along this. So it is quite simple in structures, and what you require, you have an encoder. Thereafter, you have based on that, you have a speed calculator. From there, you have a speed command, and thus you give a switching pulses. You excite a particular phase, and thereafter de-excite it will rotate. So, based on the control strategies, we can classify this SRM into various topologies. That is current control, another is a torque control. One is torque control, can be the indirect torque control or the direct torque control, that is DTC, and that part we are working on it. And current control part has some limitations, like it is just abbreviation of those who are familiar with the direct current control. So it is an extension of the DTC. So there they can use it. That is HCC and SPC. The abbreviation was mentioned in the first slide. The position of the dependent excitations of the sequential space, it is called a hysteresis current controller. So same DTC based technique can be used. We require to see the position. We allow the error, like your AC, once you set at 25 degrees centigrade, it doesn't mean that it will on 25.001 and off at 24.999. It may on at 25.1 degree, or it may off at 24.9. That you have a hysteresis band of 0.1 degree centigrade. Same way, you can set a predefined hysteresis band. It has a potential to improve the torque or acoustics when pre-calculated with the optimum power control, because it gives a jerk, and for this reason it is not very smooth, as well as it is little noisy. So for this reason it has a challenge to remove the noise, so that it becomes one of the contender for the electric vehicle. And the fast current acquisitions and the control device is also required, because you want it to magnetize and demagnetize very fast. Then only faster operation of this motor is possible. And thus we are looking for a device which doesn't have a memory. And also here, portability is a very big issue. So SPC is used to above the base speed. So this is one of the control area, that is the control logic for the SRM, hysteresis based SRM controller. You have a current control technique. So you have a IA, IB, IC, and you will measure the IA, IB, IC. No coordinate transformation is required in this case, and thus it is quite simple. And for this reason, you have a hysteresis, you have a summer, then you can have a hysteresis controller. So you can put the hysteresis controller with a particular bandwidth, we require to put the hysteresis controller. We can have a different kind of hysteresis controller. One is called proportional bandwidth and a constant bandwidth, because this is a sinusoidally varying quantity. So we require to, if you choose a band of 1%, so then it is called proportional band. And if you choose a band of 0.1 volt throughout it, then it is called algebraic band or the constant band. So we prefer the algebraic band of operation in case of the hysteresis control, and thus thereafter you will have the switching pattern to be generated, SASPSC, and you will switch it on, and then you have a commutation logic also, and based on that you will turn on and turn off a particular switch. So that, but problem lies, once you energize through the switch, but it will be de-energized mostly through the diode, and for this reason, faster demagnetizations of a particular phase is a challenge. Now we talk about direct torque control of SRM. So direct torque, the operating principle of the DTC is to select the stator voltage according to the differences between the reference torque and the actual torque produced as a reference and the stator current as well as the actual flux. And there is a difference between the conventional and AC machine rotating field theory cannot be directly applied to the SRM. It is pulsating here, like single phase induction motor. There is some kind of similarity with it. So here the flux is not rotating. So switching states produces the voltage vector in response to the torque and flux hysteresis signal according to the sectors. Precise position of the rotor is not mandatory. So that only the sectors, which angle, you have splitted the sectors into the 60 degree. So which sector it is there, you can tell, that will be sufficient. So to activate that motor. For this reason, it is quite crude. You don't require a very good sensors for actually estimate the position of the rotor. And thereafter, it is possible to direct control of the stator flux linkage and the electromagnetic torque by optimum selection of the converter switching vectors. So that is something we require to do that. Then only the DTC. Let us see that how DTC will work. So you give a reference torque, and that may be when you are starting your accelerations command, or once you are decelerating, it can be negative also. So let us assume that your torque command is positive, you are accelerating. So you want also the 4 quadrant operation of it. So you got a hysteresis. Thereafter again you have an encoder. Encoder will give you theta, and that theta may not be very accurate. If instead of the 30 degree, if it is measures 34 degree, not much harm will be there. So you may require a chip. So thereafter you have there at top position, you estimate the reference of, you have a reference torque, and that from the hysteresis controller you have a proposed switching table. I'm coming to the next slide to the switching table. Thereafter I am showing it for the for this normal converter which I have shown, SASPSC, and it gives it. So now from the converter VAC, you know that back EMF, if you integrate the back EMF, you get the flux linkage. So you have to subtract the stator losses, and if it is running at a rated speed, so that stator losses is minimal and you can ignore. And thus by integrating that, you can have a flux linkage estimation. For this, you require to estimate the flux, because the integration may not give you the proper results, because value of the resistance itself is also varying. And then you again convert to the ABC to the alpha beta frame. Once you convert to the ABC to the alpha beta frame, you have a phi S. So that phi S you compare with the phi ref, and then in that way you operate the SRM. Now I just talk about what are the challenges of the electric vehicles. So one is social acceptance. So social acceptance means the infrastructures that where if I go to the village, I can take my petrol car to a village, but I cannot take my electric vehicle into the village because it doesn't have a charging station. So that is something is a social problem. We require to establish the charging station and the infrastructures every places. Hopefully that will take up. And thereafter, technological problem. That is something we require to understand it. What is technological problem? The limited range. 1 liter gasoline, if I am not wrong, density is 0.8. So, 40 liters or 50 liters, 50 liters your tank is around 40 kg. With a 40 kg gasoline, you can travel, if you have a mileage of the 15 kilometer per liter, you can travel 600 kilometers. So, but whereas I have shown you the slides, weights. For if you can manage to travel the 600 kilometers, your battery bank weight comes out to be around 500 to 600 kgs minimum. So that is the biggest challenge, So acceleration, deceleration, weights, everything matters. So for this reason, extension of the range is a very big challenge. How we can extend the range? There are 2-3 ways. One, definitely increase the power density of the batteries. Apart from that, huge energy is been wasted while deceleration. For example, if you take a 2-ton car and it is running at a 20 meters per second, you see that how much kinetic energy it carries. Why can't we convert into the electrical energy? So that is the first charging and the ultra capacitor. How much this braking energy can be converted? More the amount of the braking energy you can convert, more will be the extension of the range. Apart from the better battery. Another challenge is the long charging period. As I show you, it is a chemical reaction. So there are different kind of technique. We have a swapping scheme also. You give a discharge battery, you take out a same kind of battery, but then it should not be have a memories, because you have seen that lithium ion batteries it will not be same, because it will gradually it will degrade it has a life cycles of the 1000 cycles. For example, I swap a 200 cycles battery with the 400 cycle battery. Would you going to accept it? And how should be the cost mechanism comes out and the pan out here? So that is also the issues. And apart from that, we are now looking for the faster charging. Now, faster charging, as I try to establish, we have to charge, we have to keep that battery at a optimal temperature. So those data from the colder countries, for this reason they are giving you 0 degree, 10 degree, all those temperatures. Unfortunately, I failed to get data from the Indian perspectives. So ultimately, we require to charge the battery in a particular environmental conditions. And also we have to see that it doesn't convert into the heat. So we require to go to the faster charging, and thus also charging infrastructure may come into the picture. If you require a very fast charging, you go there. Otherwise, you have plenty of time. You drive the car, you go to your office. There is a charging station. Since your car will be resting around 8 hours. So by that time you can slowly charge it. So based on that, we can have a different kind of mechanism, and their IoT based features also comes into the pictures. Now, safety, as you know, perhaps you know that one of the aircraft was actually Boeing was not allowed to fly because of the bursting of the batteries. So we have to have the technology going for the sodium battery, because lithium we don't have. Other materials also we don't have. But since we are covered with the seas, we have plenty of sodiums. So, but sodium batteries are non-stable. The challenge is that to make the sodium batteries and to make it stable. So these are the few issues that we are looking for the electric vehicles. Apart from that, economic problem. Tata's electric vehicles and the EV has a price difference around 5 lakhs. So, but concept is that what is the running cost? The running cost of the electric vehicle is less, because if you assume that 5 rupees is that board of trade unit, that is kilowatt hour. So by 50 kilowatt hour, if you charge it, so if you can, so it took out to be the 250 rupees. So it has been seen that by 50 kilowatt hour of the charging, you can go around 250 kilometers. So it is 1 rupees, whereas cost of the petrol is 4 to 5 rupees, and diesel is something like that. So that economy has to be actually transcribed properly, and also the economic. Also, we require to see that the greens. These are the no point of charging electric vehicle from the fossil fuel. We have to charge this electric vehicle from the renewable energies, and thus we require to ensure it, because ultimately you are shifting the carbon. Instead of the roads, you are shifting that carbon into the power plants, thermal power plant. So instead of that, you should have a high penetration of the renewable energy into the grid, so that EV actually becomes green. Another issue is that impact on the grid power, because you have 2 peaks. Now you will be charging, so it is an extra electrical loads, so that has to be considered, and thereafter it has a positive impact and a negative impact. positive impacts are the facilitating smart grid and others. Negative impacts are our problems. In the same way, environmental impact, yes, this is positive. An economic impact, cutting the operating cost, and changes the benefit of E2G. So these are the overall potentials on the advanced and adverse effects of the applications of the electrical of the IC based heating and reduction of fossil. We have a reduction in the energy density. We have a of the equipment and judging for the distributions. All are the advantage and there are the challenges. Hopefully, after 10 years, we'll see a huge evolution of the electric vehicles. And we have a smart cities and more green cities. So this is my references and uh, thank you. Now I think I have been told that there will be QA sessions. I just request to go for the QA sessions now.
There is some
Participants,
sound from participant side. Anybody? Shall we end the session? From participants, anybody?
I'll mail the slides, Dr. Patel. It's not an
Yes.
issue. I'll mail you. And you know, of course, you are welcome to write me back if you have any queries. Okay. And you are working on electric vehicle in any of the factories. They can write to me. Uh, Now we have a little bit of travel restrictions due to the COVID. Once this travel restrictions go out, you are welcome to show your lab kind of work. No questions.
As there is no any questions from participants, sir. Okay. So I am very much thankful, sir, for your this session. It is really value-added session for the participants.
Okay,
Thank
fine. Thank you for giving the opportunity to share my knowledge to you. And I'll mail the slide in a couple of
Sure.
minutes.
Sure.
And if you have any queries, you can write me back. You are most welcome.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. So we will end this session. We will meet in tomorrow morning session at 10. Thank you all.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
So I'm leaving now, huh?
Yes, sir.
Have
Yes,
a
sir. Thank you.
night. Thank you.